Happy holidays and welcome to my channel. Today we're going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to talk about all of the many ways that Christians have stolen this winter holiday season and decided it's all about them now and then made it all of our problems. But at the same time, in the holiday spirit of fun, I am going to try to do like a Grinch makeup tutorial. I am very bad at it. It's gonna definitely be like my first time, but I figured I want to try it. I think it'd be fun. And my therapist tells me that perfectionism is the antithesis of creativity, so this should be fun. Shout out to NY for short. I'll have her name at the bottom. That's the French makeup tutorial that I'm going to be trying as we talk about all of the different ways that we can celebrate this season without Christ in it. And is actually more accurate to how the season started anyway. So, win-win. First, I have a fun little poem that I made for how the Christians stole Christmas. Every pagan down in old Europe liked Yule quite a lot, but the Christians who arrived later did not. The Christians hated Yule the whole solstice season. Now, don't ask why. There's more than one reason. It could be their creed was too rigid and tight. It could be, perhaps, that they fear the moonlight. But I think the most likely reason of all is because their doctrines are too narrow, too small. Now, I grew up in a Christian household that was very upset about Starbucks cups not having Merry Christmas on it or feeling like they were personally attacked because their one true holiday wasn't being celebrated all the time. And as a kid, you just take it in, you just accept it. I had a shirt that literally said, Keep Christ in Christmas. It was blue. I wore it in high school. Really embarrassing. I had no issue wearing that everywhere. And I was like, yeah, no, this time of year is all about Jesus Christ. You can't even use Xmas. That was even a thing. If you used Xmas, that was taking the Christ out of Christmas, but X literally just like meant Christ. But like we got mad anyway. It was really just like, in my opinion, callback to Christian main character syndrome. But anyway, I want to talk about how that is not really where this season started. The season is actually very pagan, and a lot of the things that we celebrate today is because Romans kept them going, not just Christians. I think the really great thing is that this time of year is not any specific religion or cultures. It's something we can all enjoy. And I think that as we go through the different things about that make Christmas what we enjoy now, at least what we enjoy generally in our culture, it's, in my opinion, a much more humanistic time of growth and excitement and light when we're going into a more barren and hard season. And it actually shows like human renewal and hope through like really hard times. I don't know, it's very cool in my opinion. But happy holidays to everyone. Now we're going to dive into the 5 different categories that I've found of ways that Christians have stolen Christmas. Now, the next time that your Uncle Bob decides that actually this is the only holiday that can be celebrated right now is Christmas, you can let them know that it's a lot more pagan than they think. Okay, so the first one that I want to go into is the timing of Christmas. Now, as many as you might know, the winter solstice and a lot of other religions also celebrated around this time. And they celebrated a lot earlier than Christians did. Before Christmas was even a thing, the Roman Empire celebrated the Saturnalia. It's a celebration of like their Saturn god, I think. And that was December 17th to 23rd. That was a festival honoring Saturn and Sol Inctus, which was December 25th, and the unconquered sun. That would celebrate the winter solstice and the sun's return. So, understanding that they were going to go through a long winter and the sun was coming back. They've gone through the longest days and now we can find our way back. um, the Bible doesn't have anything really about when Jesus was born. So it wasn't until the fourth century that they even really like thought about it. Honestly, they weren't celebrating. It wasn't a thing. It was more when they were starting to try to convert pagans. And you're going to see that as like a really common theme in this one is cr- for Christians always for being all like, "Oh, Jesus never changes, God never changes," like that kind of stuff. They really do like add on to the pagan and other religions that like kind of were already there. And it's it's interesting because it does make sense. Like if I was a pagan, I'm not gonna like convert if I have to give up my festival. If I have to give up my festival, I'm not gonna be in your religion. Mm-mm. No, no, sir. Mm-mm. So like I get it, but it's just funny for like a religion that I feel like so many people are obsessed with like being like the one true, like almost kind of like pure way. Like it's weird. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So there was several festivals going on in both the Roman Empire and pagan cultures that celebrated Saturn and Sol. Those were all widespread throughout Rome way before Christianity was ever really a big thing. Now, it wasn't until the fourth century that the Roman Christians actually marked December 25th as Jesus' birthday. So, a while after he was dead, it was 336 CE. And this was endorsed by Emperor Constantine, who was a big part of getting Christianity widely adopted. And honestly, is another reason that a lot of Christian traditions, Christians' traditions, are also very Roman a lot of times and have some of these like pagan or polytheistic attitudes. It's very interesting to see how religions change and merge over time. And I think what's interesting too is that's not a bad thing. I think it tells us about culture. It tells us about like how society is at different times. The problem is if you think you're like the one true way and it never has changed, that's when it becomes like an issue. Anyway, so there were multiple celebrations for different gods, and it was all about the winter solstice and the sun returning. So the longest day had gone and they had survived the barren winter and they were moving towards having longer days again. Which honestly, and like a long time ago, when like you're very focused on your survival from like farms and crops. And honestly, even now, I'm like so excited when the days are going back. So I think that makes sense as like just a thing that humans would want to celebrate and be excited for every year. So I am definitely glad that we still celebrate that. The winter solstice was done by the Roman, the Norse, and Celtic traditions. So these were all different ones that were kind of blended in to blend Christian and pagan cultures together. And one thing that I realized when I was doing research for this video is, and I feel bad that I didn't know this, but it's probably because of my education growing up being very only Christian private school. I didn't realize pagan wasn't an actual religion. It's just kind of like a mean word, I think, that early Christians came up with to put down other religions, kind of in the same way that like the Greeks or the Romans would call people like barbarians. And it really just meant like outside, like non-Greeks. Barbarian just meant non-Greek, but also had a negative connotation to it. And I think pagan had the exact same way. Like there's this VeggieTales episode about St. Patrick's Day, and the way that they talk about the pagans getting converted to Christianity in this like VeggieTales episode is so insulting to pagans. It's kind of really sad. Like looking back on it, it's really fucked up. Sorry. It was not good. For pagans that were celebrating the winter solstice, they were used to doing multi-day festivals. They weren't just going to put up with like this one day that they had given to Jesus' birth. So Christians also adopted that with the like 12 days of Christmas thing. So there was a lot of reaction to the pagans and what they celebrated more than like, this is going to be like literally so bad. Perfection is the antithesis of creativity. Got this. Anyway, so the time of year is kind of a natural time for humans to celebrate. I think it makes sense that like they would add theirs to it. It's just very clearly taken from polytheistic religions and Roman culture that existed a long time before. And it wasn't until Constantine started like adding things on to make things more Christian, so it'd be more accepted, that it kind of became adopted and folded into Christianity. But as a lot of things with Christianity, you guys were not the first ones. You won't be the last, unfortunately. The second category I want to talk about are the decorations, the different things that make the holiday season special. Now, I think the most common one that you would think of when you're thinking of the holidays, in my opinion, at least from my life, oh God, this is so bad. This is this is gonna be what it's gonna be. From my experience, it is the Christmas tree. So that is something that we get up right away because our cats love it, and it always gets up right away. It's great. And then and then and that is something that absolutely was a huge part of the winter solstice. See, the evergreen trees, this idea of like a tr my face. This idea of a tree that kind of just existed all of the time and like did not die out in the winter that was so barren and horrible. It was this great symbol of like life persisting, this everlasting life. It was actually the German and the Norse traditions that used the Christmas tree first. Now, they revered evergreen trees because they were a symbol of resilience. They were evergreen in a time that everything was barren, and it was kind of amazing to have a plant that could do that. Also, in the winter solstice and during Yule, there was a lot of significance with specifically the rebirth of the sun and promise of longer days to come. So, pagans would decorate these trees and they would put different things like fruits, candies, and different things, and that would honor their different gods and spirits, particularly during Yule. Now, they would use different things. So, they would use fruits and nuts to encourage fertility and abundance. And then they would use candles or lights to honor the return of the sun and the spirit of nature. And then they would use ribbons and carved trinkets as tributes to gods like Odin or Thor. So a lot of different like ways that we celebrate Christmas and put up the tree today, not just as a symbol of evergreen, which I still think we all kind of see in our current day, but also when we put up ornaments, we put up little like, I don't know, probably fancier families put up trinkets and stuff, but we'll put up like ornaments and cat toys for our cats to climb up. But it's that all comes from worshiping of pagan gods. So awkward. There was a big issue with the missionaries that came over to these pagan countries. They were like, is it something that we can actually do? Like, do we want to convert to get people to convert over? But the missionaries decided that it was easier, as Paul says, to be all things to all people and just take their holidays. So That was fun. And that is how they were able to get a lot of people converted. And honestly, a lot of Christians, they counted it as conversion because Christians were like all obsessed with like, having the one and only God. But pagans, by their very name, just tend to be polytheistic. So they can accept Yahweh or whatever God you're deciding they want and then not have to get rid of their family gods or their shrines. Like they don't go together completely, or they don't. One does not need the other. So you can do one and not do the other, and that will not mess up. That will not mess it up at all. They'll be fine. And I don't know if Christians like just didn't understand, or if they just didn't care because they were still like, oh, we won, we won a soul, it's fine. So make sure to dedicate every single ornament on your tree to the god of your choice and pray for fertility or not fertility, depending on what you want. I'm begging for not fertility until I get out of this country. Oof. Other decorations that we see are also kind of in that range. So things like the Advent wreath, that evergreen wreath that we see on a lot of people's doors, they also have like nuts and berries and things like that. And that also has that symbol of everlasting life with the evergreen trees. Even when, whoo, that was a choice. Even, even when, um, whew, well, this is creative because it's not perfect. There we go. Anyway, these wreaths were especially used in Norse and Germanic practices. So in these cold, barren winters, it was seen as, evergreen. And then also it was a circle. So it was like the never ending circle of life, I guess, or whatever, too. Or the unbroken cycle of life, death, and rebirth. I mean, that's true. Just like the continuation of the world around us. And it's interesting to see like kind of a celebration in that season and like appreciating that cycle because we can't change it. So the other thing is that the wreaths were specifically hung on doors or laid on altars so that they could be protected from malevolent from bad spirits. So just kind of I don't know how much you guys are into that, but in the Old Testament they had to put like blood on all the kids' doors in Egypt so that they didn't like die like the Egyptians did when God was mean to them. And because of that, they were all saved. So they believed something pretty similar, but like kind of just it was this idea that like the malevolent spirits wouldn't come after you if you put this Advent thing on your this wreath on your door. Not the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Now, so that was their belief that that could keep you safe. And then they would also decorate it with different things, just like the tree. And it would attract good fortune and fertility for the coming year. Another very common Christmas decoration is the mistletoe. Now, the mistletoe comes from the Druids, so the priestly class of the Celts. It's a Celtic tradition, which is really cool. And they considered mistletoe sacred, particularly when it grew on oak trees, which they already thought were very divine. And it was really cool because it also symbolized the mistletoe itself symbolized more it symbolized that evergrow or evergreen same idea where it was kind of that fertility and long amount of life. It also symbolized immortality for them because it grew in like really high above the ground with rooting in the soil and it gave it this like ethereal quality to it. So that was also given this thing of fertility. And its white berries were seen as this like symbol of vitality and like procreation. Interesting. And they also, the Druids, so the clerics of the Celts, they thought they also had healing properties, which is really interesting. They had a special ceremony, the Druids did, so that I'm seeing what this looks like, so that's interesting. Um, yeah, I'm not quitting my day job anytime soon. The Druids, during the winter solstice, they would gather mistletoe in these like elaborate rituals where they would use golden sickles to cut the plant from oak trees, ensuring it never touched the ground to preserve their sacred power. Now, mistletoe was then distributed to the participants who hung it in their homes or wore it as an amulet for protection and good fortune. It just sounds so much better than like the awkward kiss thing we do now. I like that so much better. I want mistletoe as an amulet again. In Norse myths, mistletoe also played a really pivotal role in this one story. It's a story of Balder. Sorry if I'm saying things wrong. The god of light and purity. So, what happened is that Loki, the trickster god, used a mistletoe arrow to kill Balder. And while he was doing that, it was and that was the only plant that had not sworn an oath to protect him. So it was like the only thing that went through his armor. Not gonna lie, I don't know a ton about that, but that's super interesting. Like, it kind of reminds me of like an Achilles heel situation, but like plants, maybe? I guess maybe plants have more. It's interesting to see how like plants mean more and like other cultures and religions and like have more of like a sacred property to them. I remember in Christianity just being very superior to other species, whether it was animals or like plants. And so it's interesting to see like other cultures like hold them more in like a divine space. So that's real cool. Another common Christmas decoration is holly. Now, holly is that spined evergreen plant. It has that same significance, and it was used in Roman festivals like Saturn, and it protected the homes from evil spirits in this Roman holiday. Now, it was a symbol of life and resilience, and its spiked leaves were believed to ward off evil spirits, providing a metaphysical form to protection for homes and communities. Now, the plant also has bright red berries, and there's a striking contrast between those like really bright red berries and the winter and like barren land around. So it's kind of seen as this beautiful hope of what we can do when we get out of this barren winter. And it symbolized vitality and abundance. Now, this was also used to decorate homes, altars, and then public spaces for the Saturnali festival. It was a very protective role that it played, and it also was joyful. It was excited and talking about the next year's agricultural harvest. So it was fertility when it came to like crops and stuff too. So that was kind of cool. So it's like making sure that like the agriculture for the next year is like not shit. So that's fun. Christians have said that the berries are more like Jesus' blood, and that contrasts with like the snow is like a very stark contrast as well, but it was originally your crops getting fed. So next, we're talking about those general colors of red and green. You know how that's like our common decoration colors. Everyone thinks of Christmas and they think of red and green. Now, that originally comes from the pagan symbols of holly. So it was a main plant for the holiday for winter solstice and Yule, and the green represented that eternal life, and the red was symbolizing the fertility and sacrifice. Now, those both were specifically tied to different pagan traditions. Christians later adapted that to make the red about like Jesus' blood, and they also just took the green instead of eternal life, but like made it for heaven, I guess. The last one I want to tell you about for decorations is the candles and lights. So, one of my favorite things about the holidays is definitely when we go and look at different lights in our neighborhood. It's like the thing we do all the time in this season is like go out when it's like nice and warm later and go look at all the lights. It's fantastic. But that originally comes from a much more spiritual place. And surprise, surprise, it's not Christianity. It comes from these pagan winter solstice rituals. So they would use it in different rituals, and it was symbolizing the return of the sun and making the victory of light over darkness, which honestly, Christianity kind of like can do the same thing with, like it's not that big of a difference. You just have to say instead of the sun, it was the Son of God. Hilarious. Now, Now, the fires, candles, and lights, they were used to symbolize the return of the sun and that victory. Now, Norse and Germanic Yule, they had bonfires that were lit to honor the gods like Sol, who was the goddess, who was the sun goddess, or Odin, who was seeking their protection through the harsh winters. The Yule logs also burned in hearths, and that symbolized the warmth, and the embers were believed to bring good luck to the people around them. Dude, I need some embers right now, man. Some embers for this. Some good luck. Anyway, in Celtic tribes, the Druids lit candles during solstice to offerings to spirits and gods, encouraging their favor in upcoming cosmic balance. Now, that kind of sounds similar to me, kind of to how, like, in Catholicism, you can, like, light candles to, like, I don't know what this is. Oh my God, does this even look? No, like, kind of reminds me of Catholicism and how, like, they'll have different saints that you can like pray to and like light candles. And Catholicism is the first Christianity, so it's the OG, so that makes sense. It's very interesting though. Okay. Okay. Now, those are a lot of the different ones that honestly I've used to decorate for the holidays. If you have other decorations that you use, please let me know in the comments below. I basically use a ton of green and then a ton of lights, and that is the way I do it. I also am very cheap and don't do a ton of decorations. I'm sorry, I'm not great at that. I'm not gonna lie. Wow. What does this look like? Is this like skeleton? This is gonna be the weirdest thumbnail. Okay. Anyway, so section 3 is celebrating practices. Now, please let me know if I miss anything that you like to celebrate in the comments below. But we're going to talk about the feasting and merriment of the season, the things that I like the best. I like the decorations, but I like this the best. Now, this celebration, feasting, it's a very human, like a universally human thing throughout different cultures. It was commonly done within both Roman Saturnalia and Norse Yule. And it was kind of a way to like celebrate as a community, come together before, everything got crazy and the winter was coming. And it was kind of a good way to like come together as a community before everything got insane. And I think that's so cool, to be honest, or to come together as a community to celebrate getting through the winter. So, like, oh my gosh, we made it, guys. We're not gonna die this winter. Yay, community. And it's interesting how we've been in a more individualist kind of culture that's kind of changed, like as we get more and more individualistic, we kind of don't really are like even the celebrations kind of do. I think Christianity is like kind of an individualistic religion. Um, and so with that, you kind of have this idea of it's about celebrating Jesus and like one thing versus like coming together as a community and celebrating the community. Just my 2 cents. No one asked for. You're welcome. Anyway. I mean, that's the whole video. So festive and being feasting and like being merry when you've gotten through a hard time together with other people is something that I think we can universally say is very human about us. And I think a really beautiful thing about humanity. I've been trying to enjoy the beautiful parts of humanity recently. Um, instead of just hating everyone. So we're trying it for a season. We're gonna see. We're gonna see how well this Grinch mask sticks, and then we'll see if it's just for the season. Okay. Now, gift giving is also something that we commonly do here, at least if for the Christmas time. And a lot of times that's given to Saint Nick, which was a saint in Catholicism, first Christianity. And I'm saying that Catholicism is the first Christianity. I want to make sure I'm saying that clearly because when I grew up, we did not think Catholics were Christians, and that's pretty fucked up. So I'm saying this to be annoying. We would talk about how it was the gift of the Magi and Saint Nicholas that would like kind of like come together and make this like gift giving thing like a real thing for the holidays. I feel like that's kind of what we blamed it on, but it originally came from Saturnia, where that same holiday season that we stole the time from, where it was all about exchanging like candles, trinkets, and like tokens for good fortune for the year. And then Norse Yule, which they made offerings to the gods and like sometimes exchanged it among other people. Now, this is an easy win for anyone. Like, who doesn't want to do like gift giving in their holiday? Like, I feel like that is such an easy win that, like, I definitely think that most people will want to take that on at some point. Another big thing is Christmas markets. Oh, hi. This is one of my cats. This is M. Say hi to everybody. Okay, she's not going to say hi, but yeah, no, this is not, you can't eat this. I love you. Yes. I love you. Yeah, I know. Does mommy look weird right now? I know I do. Yeah. You don't know what that is it? No, you can't jump on it though. You can't jump on the tripod. Don't. Now you're getting the other one involved. They're both coming for me. Yes, yes, my love. Oh, such sweet babies. I love them so much. More than most humans. Oh, and there's Ariel. Say hi. No, Ariel. Ariel. Ariel, you can't jump on it. You can't jump on it. Don't jump on the tripod. Scared your sister away. I may love. Yeah. See, she loves her sister the most. Her sister loves bread and string the most. And that's just how the cycle of life goes. And then my partner is both of their favorite humans, but I have the knitting string or the crocheting string. So that's my win. That's like my go-to for the win. Anyway, back to the Christmas markets. So the Christmas markets that we see now are honestly like were very common, like long before Christianity. They would do it all the time with like winter solstice and this time of year. And it was done all over Europe. It was a great way to like get everyone together. And then it was really good for commerce as well for the holidays, kind of. It's interesting. I wonder if this kind of makes it always a little bit of a capitalistic holiday. I do think that the winter markets back then probably actually had good shit that lasted longer than a day, though, so it's probably fine. Oh, God. I'm the Grinch. Happy holidays. Now, Christmas markets were a lot around the cultures, but specifically the Germanic and Norse Yule had markets that featured green or evergreens, candles, and sacrifices to the gods like Odin, who they were celebrating. And appreciating for getting them through. Celtic tribes had bartered handcrafted goods and they performed dramatic rituals with that mistletoe for good luck and fortune. And then the Roman Saturnalia had markets that supported gift giving and feasts honoring Saturn, which blended the trade with reverie for their god. So, of course, out of all three of those traditions, the Roman one is the most capitalistic. And that's the one that we base so much of our stuff off of. We really take from all of these cultures and way more, but a lot of Christianity is based off of like Roman culture. It's very interesting to see how that's influenced it over the years, just like our holidays. Another big Christmas tradition is caroling. Now, I don't know if anyone actually does that anymore. I think that caroling is something people do very often, but in the olden days, they would carol a ton, but they would call it wailing. And so it was a way to like bring in the new year and to like bless the crops. So the crops, it was called, let's see, it's Anglo-Saxon wassailing. Anglo-Saxon wassailing. People sang songs to bless crops and orchards, especially during winter, and then shared communal wassail, which was spiced cider or ale. So that's where that comes from. And they would invoke fertility and prosperity, and they'd pour spiced cider at tree roots as offerings. So they smush the apples from the tree, make them into cider, and then pour them at the tree's feet. Nice. Now, Christians, when they adapted it more into caroling and they made it less spiritual, took out the fertility and the blessings, and added more stuff specifically about Jesus and all of the hymns that they had kind of already had set up, so it worked out. The next section, section four, I want to talk about is Christmas foods and drinks. So I don't know if you have any traditional like Christmas foods that you do. My family is pretty not traditional. Like we're not crazy, I don't know, traditional in general. But I'm also like don't see them. So even even with them, we only really had like very Christian traditions. And I don't have like food that we would eat every year. It was like mostly like Buckeyes was like kind of one of them, and like we would do gingerbread for sure, and hot chocolate, some other stuff. But I found some of the other common ones and where they came from. So one is spice cakes or meats, and that one comes from the Roman and Norse holidays. They both enjoyed the spiced cakes and roast meats, and that influenced the Christian tradition of like gingerbread and roast dinner. I really enjoyed gingerbread as a kid, but it definitely didn't have the roast side of that. So I thought that was interesting. Now, mulled wine, that came from Saturina and Yule. They had spiked drinks and mulled wine. We were a sober house, so we didn't have that. And then there were fruit cakes and Yule log cakes that came from the Roman and Norse feasts that we were talking about, as well as that wassail that I just talked about with the um with the wassail from the Anglo-Saxons in England. Now that was the hot cider and spiced ale that we ended up getting. And we had pudding and chestnuts. So things like figgy pudding, those were common in like all of the ancient festivals where they would celebrate for quite a while. And all of those foods are pretty common. I know that for me, yeah, we weren't super into the crazy traditional food, but we did have some of those. So let me know which ones you've had in the comments. Now, my favorite section to talk about is the beloved Christian lore and mythical beings. So things like Santa Claus, is that very Christian? Now, there is several very big mythical parts of the Christmas season. The star was used in a lot of different really interesting ways, way before it was considered the star at the top of the tree to be something that was Christian in almost every culture. Before, stars were either signs of fertility, they were signs of significant events, divine favor. They were seen as these huge spiritual events. So it makes sense that Christianity then adopted these principles and said that this star showed this great huge event, which was the birth of Christ. Now, for reindeers and flying sleigh, that comes from Norse mythology. And that is a Norse tradition that said Odin, the chief god, was riding Saphir. Yeah, I can say words. A magical eight-legged horse that could fly through the sky, and the idea of a flying steed during those winter months and that like supernatural traveling, that's where that came from. But then it mixed with Siberian shamanic traditions. So the Siberian shamanism, they had reindeer that were believed to play a significant role in their spiritual journeys. So what they would do is the shamans, under the influence of hallucinogenic mushrooms, dude, I wish. Dude, I wish, we're said to have reindeers in translate states flying through the skies to communicate with the spirit world. These flying reindeers, they were central to like the shaman's ability to navigate between the two worlds. And it's really cool to see how those combined is kind of what created it, because neither of those individually really work, but when you add them together, you kind of do a mishmash, you kind of get to where we do now. It's like most of evolution. Oh, there's the naughty and nice list, a very common one for the Christmas holiday. And that comes from Alpine folklore with Krampus. Now, Krampus was a very interesting demonic figure that punished naughty children during the Christmas season. He's often depicted as like this half goat, half demon, who punishes these children who misbehave. So he's kind of like the dark side of Santa, I guess. And it was because of him that they came up with a whole naughty and nice thing. And they use that to try to like get kids to behave. Surprise, surprise. No duh there. But it's just interesting to see how much Pavlov dogging they do to like get kids to believe in this shit. The final Santa Claus. Now, Santa Claus, he specifically comes from a fusion of a couple of different things. So, in the fourth century, there was Saint Nicholas, and Saint Nicholas was a bishop in the fourth century, and he was well known for his generosity, specifically towards children, and a lot of times is what we think of when we think of the modern day Santa Claus. And he definitely is one of the inspirations. I think one of the cool things about the holidays and saying happy holidays is that these holiday seasons really are a mix of so many different cultures and traditions. It's fantastic. Now, Saint Nicholas, he also kind of comes from Odin and Wooden. In Norse mythology, Odin, during the Yule season, which is when all of these celebrations generally happen, was said to travel across the sky in a horse, rewarding good children. This influence also merged into St. Nicholas. So it kind of added that flying horse rewarding good children kind of aspect to it. So those combined make the modern day Santa Claus. And then the modern day Santa Claus got even more secularized and capitalismized. I don't know. And so the modern Santa is really seen as a way to like sell things to kids, and like, I mean, it was made iconic by like the Coca-Cola ads that were in the 1930s, and it's been a huge part of capitalist America trying to like sell you shit during the holidays. And so it's like very interesting to see how quickly when America got their hands on it, how like They're like, how can we make money off of you? Do, 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 do. Wow, I does it look like I have smallpox? It's okay. But yeah, it's a really cool figure that can mean stuff for everyone. And I think that's one of the best things about us moving away from Merry Christmas and towards Happy Holidays is the recognition of all of the different traditions, religions, and cultures that make up the holiday season that we celebrate now. And the great thing is you can celebrate any of them or none of them and enjoy the season as just a general like humanistic enjoyment of this time of year and celebrating us coming together and being able to survive as a community. And I think that's the most beautiful part of Christmas. As Christmas has become more increasingly secular over the years, thank you, Coca Cola and everything in the 1900s. Many of the mythical beings and like those folklore traditions, they adapted to entertain and like engage with people that, and they didn't really want to stop their audience based on their religious affiliation. They wanted everyone to buy from them. I think it's interesting because it's kind of like the things that are still going, the things that kind of like kept, in my opinion, are like Roman things, like from especially from the Roman Saturnalia, because it's like a lot of those markets, a lot of the gift giving, that kind of stuff that we do hugely in like American Christmas nowadays, at least that I've seen, is very based in that. And so I think that what's really survived is not a Christian tradition, but like a Roman tradition. And those are very intertwined, but they are different. They are different, in my opinion. Anyway, it's interesting to see how now that they're trying to use it to sell to people and it's more like a capitalist thing, it's actually less Christian because they're trying to get everybody. They don't care what your religion is. They just want you to buy stuff. They just want you to think this is going to make you feel something. And boo. Boo that. Boo humbug. I don't know if this will look better if I do green or if it'll look worse. So we're going to do it and we're going to see. And we're going to know for the future. I genuinely, do you think I look like more like a skeleton or like I have smallpox? I think wearing the horns makes it look a little better. I don't know if that's wishful thinking. I want to be clear, I don't do makeup regularly. I'm just doing this as a fun idea for Christmas. That is the end of my list of all of the things that are very not Christian about this holiday and very whatever you want them to be and just happy holidays and do whatever you want because why the fuck not and just enjoy yourself. Yay. I don't know, just enjoy the holidays and be happy we're not dead in the winter this year. We made it one more year and that's good for us. I think that it's interesting when we look back and we see how different religions try to co-opt different things and pretend like they were the first one to ever do it. Like, there's so many Christian traditions that are like that all throughout, like, whether you're talking about like Easter, whether you're talking about like things like wedding rings, like, those are not necessarily, they're not originally Christian. And like, for some reason, even though I kind of understood that as a kid, I still thought they were worse. So I thought we'd fixed it. I don't know. I don't know if that's maybe that's what I thought. I don't know. It wasn't a good thought. I don't know if that's how I justified it in my head, but I don't know. Because culture changes over time. That's super normal. And I honestly think it's great that the holidays are way more inclusive than they've been in the past. And I hope they continue to get like better and better. And I think that this, like, killing it. I think that this, like, this becoming more humanistic and more community based and less about like celebrating a specific God is really great. Just remember that every time a Christian freaks out about the war against Christmas, it wasn't their holiday to begin with. Now, please like and subscribe and let me know what you are doing for this winter holiday season. Are you celebrating winter solstice, Yule? Are you celebrating yourself and your community and everyone else around you? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe if you like the video. And have a very happy holidays. Keep laughing through the apocalypse.